Greetings, and welcome to this brief introduction to Plato's dialogue, the Charmides. Plato's Charmides is a dialogue about moderation, in Greek sophrosune, which is also translated as temperance or sound-mindedness. The most surprising feature of the Charmides is that Socrates holds this dialogue about moderation with two future tyrants, Charmides and his uncle and guardian Critias. This dramatic fact poses the question, does the fault for their future badness lie at Socrates' feet? Did he corrupt them? Were the Athenians right to eventually execute Socrates? As the dialogue on moderation, the Charmides joins the Republic, the dialogue on justice, and the Laches, the dialogue on courage. There is no Platonic dialogue on the fourth so-called cardinal virtue, prudence or wisdom, or you could say all the dialogues are about wisdom. The Charmides is narrated by Socrates to an unnamed companion. It begins with an extensive introduction, to which I will return after summarizing the body of the dialogue. At this point, I would mention only that Socrates makes clear that this dialogue takes place early in his life, in 432 BC, when he was in his very late 30s. The only earlier dialogue of Socrates' mature life appears to be the first Alcibiades. Now, apart from its extensive introduction and a concluding conversation, the Charmides falls into two main parts. In the first part, Socrates converses with Charmides, who is a beautiful young man, about the question, what is moderation? Charmides advances three answers. First, Charmides answers that people say that moderation is acting and speaking in an orderly and quiet fashion. Socrates quickly gets Charmides to reject this answer, for Charmides also says that moderation must be noble or beautiful, and sometimes acting or speaking quickly is nobler than doing so quietly and slowly. Second, Charmides looks into himself, and he answers that moderation is reverence or awe. We might say being respectful. Socrates gets him to reject this answer too, for Charmides also says that moderation must be something good for us, and sometimes being referential or respectful is harmful. So far then, Socrates has shown that whatever moderation is, Charmides believes it must be both noble and good. Third, Charmides offers an answer that he's heard from someone else, his uncle and guardian Critias, it seems. Namely, that moderation is doing one's own things, minding your own business. But Socrates quickly gets him to reject this definition too, for Charmides believes that moderation must be good for the community, and doing your own thing could lead to disunion. I mean, just imagine shoemakers making shoes only for themselves and their families or friends. Again, at least Socrates shows that Charmides believes that moderation is a sort of common good, or supports the common good. Now at this point, Critias, who's a proud adult, can no longer restrain himself, and he jumps into the dialogue to save his answer. So begins the second main part of the dialogue. Now Critias corrects Charmides' fumbling by saying that moderation is doing your own good, not making things simply for others. In addition to good, such work is attractive, it's noble, it's not servile. Socrates then brings up something new, knowledge. He asks Critias whether the moderate person can be moderate without knowing that he's moderate. Critias insists that the moderate person must be knowledgeable, and Critias appears to revise his definition to claim that moderation is self-knowledge. It is what the Delphic oracle orders, know thyself. Still, even though Critias appears to revise his definition, he does not reject his definition. In his view, self-knowledge seems to be a condition for doing the good things, especially for oneself. Now, Critias' revision leads to the remaining, very complicated conversation between himself and Socrates. This difficult section has three main parts. First, Socrates asks what this self-knowledge consists of, a knowledge that they characterize as knowledge of knowledge and lack of knowledge. Critias can supply no satisfactory answer. So then, second, Socrates asks whether such knowledge is even possible. The motions of the soul, such as seeing, which sees color, not itself, suggest that it's not. Critias is now completely at a loss. So Socrates spares him by granting that such knowledge be possible, and he asks, third, whether such knowledge is even good. The answer seems to be no, For this knowledge of knowledge is distinct from all other arts or sciences, and it's from these other ones, such as, say, shoemaking, that we get the various good things for ourselves. Socrates spins out here a vision of a community ruled by moderation, as knowledge of knowledge, a vision that Critias, the future tyrant, gladly embraces. But even here, Socrates wonders, will such knowledge make us happy? Critias replies that happiness comes from knowledge of good and bad. And so the argument seems to return to its beginning, that moderation means doing good things, but it's separate from the knowledge of the good, and so not good itself. And so it's not what the interlocutors believe moderation to be, namely something good. In short, the dialogue appears to end, as many Socratic dialogues do, in aporia, that is, being at a loss, a perception of one's own confusion. But isn't this aporia itself an example of knowing what you do not know? Further, doesn't the dialogue show us how such knowledge of ignorance comes about? First, as Socrates' perception of it in himself, and then his confirmation of its presence in Critias. Maybe then the dialogue is not quite as aporetic as it appears. In any event, this apparently aporetic result does not deter Charmides. In the conclusion, he swears he's going to follow Socrates. Indeed, Critias and Charmides deliberate together, and they decide to force Socrates to allow Charmides to follow him. So their bad end seems to be out of Socrates' hands, even though he momentarily shook their belief in their own knowledge, and maybe more than momentarily shook Charmides' respect for his uncle and guardian. The core of their soul remains what it was before they met Socrates. But before we end, I want to say a word about the opening scene. Socrates tells his unnamed companion that he had just come from a battle where many people he knew died. When he beholds Charmides' beauty, for a moment Socrates is inflamed and ecstatic, literally outside himself, he says. But then he regains himself. How? By remembering a snatch of poetry that emphasizes that the beloved is like a lion, a beast, ready to devour the lover. In short, the face of the attraction of Eros, Socrates calls the primacy of his, Socrates' own good. Being close to violent death does prepare Socrates for this unique expression of rapture. The presence of the loss of all goods prepares him to long for and feel the beautiful attraction of the possibility of a complete good, immortality, such as he says is promised by a sort of Thracian medicine he learned, that operates through charms. But by questioning this attraction, Socrates brings himself back to the dialogue. It is a questioning that decisively hovers over their inquiry into the would-be beautiful, good thing, moderation. In the process, Socrates confirms for himself the superiority of his own, more humbler moderation, knowing what he does not know, particularly about the most important things. This is Socrates' medicine, which he holds on to despite its limitations and despite the attraction of the Thracian charms. Thank you for joining this brief introduction to Plato's dialogue, the Charmides.